Hi James, Danielle wanted me to demonstrate tapping a keg. This is a typical half-barrel keg that you see in the United States, and it has a Sankey style connector on it. You can see there's a ball, a stainless steel ball right here inside this gasket, and there are a couple of tabs and some grooves. And what happens is when we put the tap in it, the tap will actually lock in to the grooves like so. And at this point in time, the ball still hasn't been depressed down because this lever right here actually pushes down on a pipe, and that pipe pushes the ball down. So at this point in time, we've attached the tap to the keg, but we haven't allowed any beer to come out yet. So when I pull this lever back and push down, you can see beer shot up into this tube because the lever pushed the ball down and opened up the connection between the tap and the keg. So now beer is coming in. Now, you'll also notice that we have a small line coming in this side over here. This is actually the CO2 line, and you follow it back, it comes up to a big CO2 tank with a regulator on it. So this guy controls how much pressure we drive to the keg. And this is a system that's more like you'd see in a bar, where in bars they'll drive kegs with CO2, and that's different than what you'd see at your typical party where people will have a hand pump that they'll connect onto it, and the hand pump, basically when you pump, the pump pushes air into the keg. Air is really bad because it will destroy the flavor of the beer very quickly. Normally people will use those hand pumps if they're going to consume a keg of beer the same day, because it'll only last about 1 or 2 days. Once you do that, it'll go bad. Tastes very disgusting. But this technique, because it's sealed and only CO2 driven, we can transfer from this keg to these other clean kegs that have CO2 in them already without introducing any real amount of air into the system. So the beer inside of these kegs is going to be just as good as it is in this one, and it'll last just like it would in this one for weeks, months, depending on the beer. So the only thing we have to do at this point is we're hooking this up somewhat differently for a transfer. Normally what you'd do is, instead of having this connector on here, you'd have some sort of serving faucet, like a little picnic tap like this, or
wait, so I can bring that back just so I can show it again.
A little picnic tap like this, or you might have a tap handle. But in this case, because we're actually just doing a transfer, what we're doing is we're actually doing something a little strange, because this is actually is a gas connection. No, actually it's not. It's a liquid connection, sorry. And what we're going to do is we're going to drive in backwards.
There's a run. Through
the out. And the reason we're going to do this is because once we connect this up, this port on the keg actually... Let me turn this guy on, make sure it's on. There she goes. So it's filling into this keg now.
Yeah, you can see the beer going through the line. The line's now yellow instead of clear.
Yeah. And actually this is a fairly light colored beer, although it's a very nice hoppy beer. But the interesting thing about why this works as well as it does is the output on these kegs has a stainless steel tube that runs all the way down into the bottom. So we're actually driving the beer down through that tube, and essentially it's displacing, actually compressing the CO2 inside the keg as it fills. So as it fills up here, what I do is I just let a little of that CO2 out, and then more beer can come in until the pressure balances. And it will stop flowing because eventually it'll squeeze the CO2 up to the top, and the pressure will equalize with what we're driving from here. And we can essentially control how much pressure the whole system has by this one regulator.